this is Cheryl Echevarria of Echevarria Travel, your one-on-one travel agent, making your travel dreams come true, home of the independent traveler. Whether you're sighted, blind, or disabled, whether you use a cane, guide dog, or sighted guide, Echevarria Travel will get you there safely. Come and learn more about traveling independently.
Come with me, let's go. Come with me, let's go. Come with me, let's go. Come with me, let's go.
Hello, everybody. This is Cheryl Echevarria of Echevarria Travel and the Echevarria Travel Show. How is everybody? I'm sorry I missed you back in February. We had, just like everybody around the country, it's been cold. It's been freezing. We got tons of rain and ice and everything going on. I keep looking to the sky and let's pray nothing else happens. And anyway, it's a perfect day out. It's almost spring, so I'm just getting into the springtime of year, so I can't wait. It is March 5th, 2014, March already. Wow. And don't forget, this coming Saturday, you get to spring ahead an hour. So don't forget to set your clocks ahead. We have a very great show tonight. A couple of things. You may have seen that I have a co-host. Unfortunately, Joseph Shanley is not going to be with us tonight. He has cable problems, so next month in April, he'll be on here and he'll be talking to all of us. And he's from Farmingdale, New York, and he's a new member of the NFB of Long Island, so we'll be talking to him then. And I have a great guest tonight, Mr. Anil Lewis from the NFB, and he's the Director of Advocacy and Policy at our headquarters down in Baltimore. So after the first break, we'll be speaking to him about one of the bills that the NFB is trying to get passed, which is the Aircraft Carrier Technology Act, or we call it ACTA, ACTA Bill. And we'll be talking about that and other things going on with the Department of Transportation and the airlines, and it's going to be a really fun show. I also want to let everybody know that the WTOE network, through oureyes.org, is run by donations from you, our listeners. And remember, this is a live call-in talk show. We're going to be on until 9 o'clock. And that number is 1-888-572-0141. And to send a tax-deductible check to the Northeast chapter of the NFB of New Jersey. And that address is 254 Spruce, SPRUCE Street, Bloomfield, New Jersey, 07003. And the WTOE network is celebrating 10 years. Joe Ruffalo started this radio network in 2004, and it's 2014, and we got 8 great shows going on. In fact, Tamara White, stick around after my show, and from 9 to 10, Tamara White is going to be on, and she's got a great show. So we'll talk more later on in the show about the other great shows on the WTOE network. Some other things going on also tonight. If we have time for it, I'll be talking about the New York Times Travel Trade Show that my partner, Nelson Echevarria, who happens to be my husband, and Max, my guide dog and mascot of Echevarria Travel, went to this past Friday and learned all new things going on in the travel industry to bring back to all of you. So in any event, we're going to take a 2-minute break. And when we come back, we're going to speak to Mr. Anil Lewis from the NFB down in Baltimore, Maryland. Come on back.
Don't go anywhere. There'll be more show right after these messages.
You take the family to the food court. Your wife and Pete head for tacos. You and Danny want Chinese. You look up at the menu. You look down to see what Danny wants. But you don't see Danny.
Danny!
Every parent knows that feeling. Imagine if he were actually abducted. To receive free Amber Alerts on your cell phone, go to wirelessamberAlerts.org. A child is calling for help. Brought to you by the Wireless Foundation, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Ad Council.
How would you feel if your children went to school and weren't taught to read? Today, less than 10% of blind children are taught to read Braille. Literacy is a basic right. Learning to read Braille is the key to success. Without it, a blind child doesn't have a chance. For more information on Braille literacy and blindness, contact me, Mark Maurer, President, National Federation of the Blind, 410-659-9314.
Hi, I'm Judy. And my name is Johnny. We're 10 years old and we're blind. Our dreams are to become scientists.
My name is Catherine. I'm 24 years old and I'm blind. I'm currently in law school, and one day I dream of becoming an attorney.
My name is Bill. I'm 74 years old, and I've just become blind. My dream is to remain independent in my own home and not have to go to a nursing home just because I'm blind.
The National Federation of the Blind of New York has been helping blind people achieve their dreams since 1956. Help keep their dream machine running and visit blindnewyorkers.org to make a donation. You can also call them at 718-567-7821. Blind people are your neighbors and colleagues, so learn more about blindness and make your contribution today. Go to blindnewyorkers.org or call 718-567-7821. The National Federation of the Blind of New York. Today's dreams can become tomorrow's realities.
Come with me, let's go.
And we're back. And before we go any further, I keep forgetting to say who I am. I'm Cheryl Echevarria. I'm your host of the Echevarria Travel Show, and I own Echevarria Travel. And to ever get in touch with me or go to my website, it's www.echevarriatravel.com. That's a mouthful. That's echevarriatravel.com. Our number is 631-456-5394. And to talk to me and to my guest tonight, Mr. Anil Lewis, is 1-888-572-0141. And I'm going to bring on right now Mr. Anil Lewis from the NFB of Baltimore, Maryland, our headquarters down there. And he's the Director of Advocacy and Policy. Anil, are you there?
Oh, yes, Cheryl. Pleasure to be here. I'll be your co-host tonight since Joe wasn't able to make it.
Oh, well, you can stay on as long as you like. I'd like to give everybody a little history. Anil and I are very good friends, and I met him at the NFB convention back in 2007. That was my very first convention in Atlanta, Georgia. And Anil was president of the Georgia affiliate at that time. But I'm going to ask you, Anil, give everybody a little history about Anil Lewis and where you started from and where you are now.
All right, I'm a native Atlantan, born and bred. I became blind in 1989 due to retinitis pigmentosa. I've been active with the Federation since the mid-90s. I've been the chapter president in Atlanta. I've been an affiliate president for the NFB of Georgia. I've served on the National Board of Directors. I had the honor of serving as the Scholarship Committee Chairman. I'm currently the Imagination Fund Committee Chair for the Federation, and I'll be working on some membership stuff. And just to give you an exclusive, starting next Monday, March 10th, my title will no longer be the Director of Advocacy and Policy for the Federation. I will be the Deputy Executive Director of the Jernigan Institute. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Wow, you got a lot of hats to wear, Anil. I feel the same way when I'm out in the public. We always wear so many hats being with the NFB.
I'm just blessed to be in a job that I really love. I wake up every morning knowing that what we do changes the world. So I'm looking forward to the new and exciting challenges to come.
Exactly, and I can't wait for the national convention this year as well. So I'll be seeing Anil at that. And in fact, this Sunday, I'll be going up to Albany with my family of the NFB of New York, and we're going to be up in Albany meeting our senators and assemblymen for the year and discussing bills and trying to get things passed. So, we work hard to get better lives for us blind people and for blind people all across the country. So
that's right.
Tonight, especially since the show is all about travel, we have a bill that the NFB is trying to get passed, which is the ACTA Bill, or the Air Carrier Technology Act. Would you give our listeners exactly what their bill is?
Absolutely. That was a really good segue, talking about the policy efforts that the NFB of New York will be engaging in at your state capitol. And, of course, every year the National Federation of the Blind goes to Washington, D.C. To conduct our Washington Seminar, or as the older members call it, the March on Washington, to introduce policies that positively affect the lives of blind people. And in line with your show, blind people love to travel. As a matter of fact, listening to the intro music with that little Caribbean beat, here stuck in all this snow, I'm thinking I'm going to contact Echevarria Travel and see if I can book a trip to some nice, cozy island. But in order to do that, once I want to travel, I'm going to want to take advantage of all the technology that's out there. But unfortunately, the technology that allows individuals to control their travel is becoming more and more inaccessible for blind people. There's first the website to actually purchase your ticket. Some people use apps to purchase their tickets. Many of them are really inaccessible to the assistive technology that we use. You go to the airport, and there are kiosks now rather than human beings to process your tickets, and those kiosks are inaccessible. You go to the gates, and then they have technology there. You get on the planes, and now on the back of the seat in front of you is this touch screen that allows you to order movies or order food or whatever. Those are also inaccessible. So it really creates a problem for blind people when we travel. So the Air Carrier Technology Access Act, ACTA Act, is really designed to enforce existing law, because the Air Carrier Access Act already says that travel should not be discriminatory. But, of course, when it was passed in 1986, no one knew that we would be so technology dependent. So the ACTA will hopefully bring us in line with these new innovative technologies so that blind people can enjoy traveling just like everyone else. As Jesse Hartle, who is the legislative lead on this issue for the Federation, says, we pay the same price to fly the friendly skies, so we should have the same access.
Exactly, and sometimes those friendly skies aren't as friendly as we'd like them to be.
Yeah.
Not only, online or on the airlines themselves, but even at the airports with the kiosks, or online with their websites. Even with me being a travel agent, some of the websites are still inaccessible for me to even book some clients on certain suppliers' websites. But some of them I'm getting my foot in the door with. Like currently I'm working with Walt Disney, and in fact, tomorrow I will be myself, Anil Lewis, Janet Jackson, Joe Shanley, who is supposed to be on tonight. We're all travel agents, and we're working closely with Mark Jones and his technology team to upgrade the travel agent side of their website, so all blind people that want to be travel agents won't have an issue with Disney's travel agent side of the business. So,
that's excellent.
Yes,
one of the reasons
exactly.
that Jesse Hartle wasn't able to appear on the show tonight is because his family is traveling to Disney right now. So if you need someone with some feet on the street during your discussions with Disney tomorrow, let me know and I'll send him a text message, and he can leave the Disney and go straight to the offices and handle some business.
Exactly. That would be great. I actually spoke to him about some of those things before, about a month ago, when he was planning on going. So, yeah, we've spoken about it. Now, a little history, Anil, about the Air Carrier Access Act, or the ACCA. I mean, recently, members of the NFB have been having issues with guide dogs on the planes and all that. And I'm going to have to say, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, in fact, when you're flying, a lot of the employees on the flights or even at the gates are basically uneducated as to what's going on.
Right.
I think, I don't know if they're purposely trying to do that at the airlines or not, but it does seem to me that more and more people at the airports are not as educated as they used to be about people with disabilities flying. Have
I
you
agree.
found that more or less?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. I was saying that, me personally, I haven't had issues, but it doesn't mean that people across the country aren't having issues when they're traveling at the airports. Do you find that the flight attendants or the people at the gates have less education about the laws that protect us when we're traveling?
I agree with you. There is a problem, and I say it's a lack of quality training with respect to not only the laws, but just common courtesy and common decency. As a blind person, when I travel, so many times they want to treat us like children, and that's very, very frustrating. If I can tell you a quick story that kind of pulls a lot of this together, I try very hard not to have to depend on individuals when I travel. So when I book my ticket, I try to fly on airlines that have accessible websites. I try to print my boarding pass before I leave so that I can go straight through security and get on my plane. But most recently, I had to travel quickly to go to Atlanta for a quick trip. And I called and I got my ticket, and I specifically asked for a window seat so that I could park my cane between the seat and the fuselage, as we're legally allowed to do. Right. And I had everything in place, and I forgot to print my boarding pass before I left. So when I got to the airport, of course, the kiosks, which I could use to reprint that boarding pass, were inaccessible to me. That's really why I'm one of the plaintiffs that's listed on the lawsuit that we're suing to make sure that those kiosks are accessible. So I went to the counter where the people, real people, stand, but at every counter there's a kiosk, a little touch screen. So I finally got a real human being. I just needed them to reprint my boarding pass. She printed it. I went through security. I got to the plane. And the most frustrating part about it is when I got on the plane, they told me that my seat had changed. So the person at the counter, who thought she was doing me a favor, had moved me to, that row 10, where they move all the elderly and disabled, and they put me in an aisle seat. So it put me in a frustrating situation because now, of course, the flight attendants are going to want to take my cane, which I'm not going to tolerate, and it just created a whole problem. So if all of those technologies were accessible, and I was able to control my flight, it would have been just fine. But it just gets frustrating, and they treat us like children.
They do. Lenny, were you trying to tell me something? Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought I heard Lenny whispering in my ear. But yeah, are you allowed to talk about that case at all that the NFB filed with the Department of Transportation back in January?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's already the law that these kiosks should be being made accessible, but during a recent regulatory process, they allowed the airlines an extension on making these kiosks accessible, an additional 10 years to make only a small percentage of the kiosks accessible. That's really just intolerable. The reality is all of the existing kiosks may be switched out before that timeline is over. So in order to make sure that the existing law is enforced, because we have tried very, in those proper parameters to create the systems change that we need to see. But when the systems don't listen, we have to resort to litigation. So currently, Dr. Mark Maurer, our national president, and myself are listed as plaintiffs suing the Department of Transportation to make sure that these kiosks are made accessible for blind individuals.
I really can't understand why they only are allowing or expect that the airlines to have their kiosk and website, only 10% of them accessible within 10 years. I mean, the technology is out there, and they only expect about 10% of these airlines when there are thousands of them. I mean, we all know the big names out there, but there are other names like they have like Air Caribbean or Jamaica or Aer Lingus, or, they affect us here as well. I mean, they're international flights, but they have U.S. websites for the U.S. clients. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why 10% is nothing with thousands of airlines out there. That's just ridiculous to me.
And the technology exists. It's readily accessible. I mean, if you compare other transportation modes, like if I want to catch the Amtrak to Atlanta, I have an Amtrak app. It's accessible. I can purchase my ticket. It puts my boarding pass right there on my iPhone. If I forgot, I could go to the kiosks in the Amtrak stations. They're accessible. I use an earbud. and I can make a purchase, or I can go to the counter there. That technology exists. The website's accessible, the apps are accessible, the kiosks are accessible, and I can get on a train with no problem. The airlines, I don't understand what the problem is. The same technologies exist. The same solutions exist.
Unfortunately, unless they're mandated to do so, they're not going to change their spots. In other words, what I want also to bring up, which is a big thing that the NFB is working on, and it does have to do with travel because it has to do with work. So I'd like to talk about the Fair Wages Act that we're, fighting nationally as well as in every single state about the fair wages in the United States to get, since you were the lead on this, I'd like you to bring that up because that's a very serious issue.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to talk about fair wages. We have made such a significant amount of progress on this piece of legislation. And it's important because if we are going to travel, we have to have money to pay for that travel. And you can't do that when you're only making pennies per hour. And for those viewers who are not, or listeners who are not familiar with the legalized process of paying people with disabilities less than the federal minimum wage, there's a provision within law under the Fair Labor Standards Act, it's Section 14C, that allows employers to pay people with disabilities less than the federal minimum wage. It's supposedly based on productivity, but the employers have all the control over this provision. And essentially, there's 400,000 people with disabilities currently being paid less than the federal minimum wage, a variety of different disabilities. So the Federation really has been fighting this fight since we were founded in 1940. You can see writings from our founder, Dr. Jacobus Timbrook, our second major president, Dr. Jernigan, and also Dr. Maurer, has continued this fight, but we have not made the progress that we've made in the last couple of years before. Currently, the bill, which will phase out the use of this discriminatory provision over a 3-year period, the Fair Wages for Workers with Disabilities Act of 2013, the bill number is H.R. 831. Currently, that bill has 72 co-sponsors, and we're really moving it forward really well. Congressman Harper, who's a Republican out of Mississippi, is the sponsor of the bill. He understands this in a real way. He's a true champion around this issue because it's personal to him, as well as understanding that it's the right policy decision. His son, he has an adult son with Fragile X syndrome, which is a developmental disability. And he'll be the first to tell you that when his son was born, the professionals told him that you need to find a place to put him. And if he would have done that, his son would have been another one of these statistics that says that, that he can't do any more than what he's doing, and he would have been around making sub-minimum wages. But his son is actively participating in a lot of vocational programs that will allow him to earn at least the federal minimum wage and hopefully more. So we want that situation to exist for everyone. Our major opposition, of course, are the entities that profit on this. And many people are surprised that Goodwill Industries is one of the major purveyors. And it's interesting that even though the majority of the Goodwill agencies supposedly operate without using this certificate, they still continue to fight and say that it's an essential tool. I don't understand that. I think that it probably boils down to the amount of influence that the larger Goodwills have over the greater gathering of Goodwill Industries. And the only reason they have more influence is because they have more money. And they have more money because rather than paying their employees with disabilities the minimum wage or more, they're using that money to pay their CEOs and to pad their coffers. We think that it's unfair, discriminatory, immoral. It's an antiquated provision that really has no place in today's society. So we are working to phase it out. And right now we're looking for a Senate sponsor. So if there's a Senate champion out there, if one of your listeners or viewers has a relationship with their state, with their senator, and they're interested in pitching this, give me a call.
And Anil, why don't you put out there your email and phone number so if people want to contact you, they know how to do so.
Certainly. It's Anil Lewis, and I'm currently the Director of Advocacy and Policy for the next 2-3 days. And my email address is alewis, that's ALEWIS, at nfb.org. And you can reach me via phone at 410-659-9314, and my extension is 2374. And hopefully all of that contact information will stay the same through the transition.
Thank you, Anil. Well, the reason why I bring this up because when we're all working, it makes that wheel in our economy go around. If somebody's working, they're traveling, it goes back into the tourism industry. It keeps people like me working. It keeps people all over the country working. By adding those people that are making at least minimum wage or more is going to bring more economic structure to the United States. When you keep people in those sub-minimum wage jobs, it's stagnating the economy. So it seems like the government doesn't want to grow. And if we put people with disabilities in the workforce and getting better pay, then our economy will get better and there'll be less people on disability. You know, we're always complaining that we have no money for this and no money for that. If we get more and more people off of, the disability, there'll be more money in the government to use it for other things.
That's correct, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to flip that model so that people with disabilities are supported to be fully participating, actually tax-paying citizens in society. Now, you can't spend the whole show talking about fair wages, although I would love to. Now, you promised me we were going to talk about some travel stuff, so I want to hear what options I have to go to some nice warm place. I've never been on a cruise before. I want you to talk to me about some of that stuff. So you decide, fair wages or travel.
Well, we're going to be talking about travel once we come back from our 4-minute break. Tonight, Echevarria Travel is talking to Mr. Anil Lewis. When we come back from our break, we'll be talking all about travel and about the New York State Travel Trade Show, which I'm going to invite Neil to come up to next year because it's open to the public. And remember, call us at 1-888-572-0141, and we'll be back after this 4-minute break. Stay tuned.
Let's go.
Hi, I'm Keith Zanley, your announcer here at WTOE Radio Network. We're going to take a little bit long with this break to save our files for podcasts. So don't go anywhere because there'll be more of the Echevarria Travel Show in just a bit.
Come with me, let's go.
Amber Alert, abducted child, African-American girl, 6 years old. Suspect, Caucasian male, 30 to 35, 6 feet, 180 pounds, wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued,
White van, out-of-state license, X-ray 687 Charlie.
you can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelessamberalerts.org. When an Amber Alert is issued in the areas you've chosen, you'll receive a free text message. If you spot the vehicle, the suspect, or the child described in the alert, call 911. Sign up today at wirelessamberalerts.org. Think of it. Something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units, Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody. Repeat, Amber Alert canceled.
wirelessamberalerts.org. A child is calling for help. This message brought to you by the Wireless Foundation, the U.S. Department of Justice, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Ad Council.
Mommy, you sure take the time and do a lot just to keep me safe. Knee pads, baby gates, corner cushions, socket covers, and that fancy car seat for big girls like me. Where'd you find that thing?
The odds of a child being in a fatal automobile accident, 1 in 23,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn some of the signs. No big smiles or other joyful expressions by 6 months. No back and forth sharing of sounds or facial expressions by 9 months. And no babbling by 12 months. To learn more of the signs and more about autism, visit autismspeaks.org.
So, Mom, while you're remembering to protect me from the unthinkable, don't dismiss the possible.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
They're going to jump out of trees. They'll go down the slide head first. They'll make parachutes out of sheets. They'll balance on things that are impossible to balance on, like the back of a couch. They'll run with sharp objects. They'll climb things that won't hold their weight. They'll put their fingers in places where they could get smashed. They'll drive their tricycles down steep hills. They'll bounce balls off their faces. They'll step on each other. They'll jump on each other. They'll invent whole new ways to put themselves in jeopardy. But one of the most dangerous things kids will do happens while they're sitting perfectly still. Kids who ride in a car without a booster seat are much more likely to suffer serious or fatal injury during a crash than kids in boosters. But amazingly, 80% of all kids who need them aren't in them. After a toddler seat and until they're 4'9", booster kids, and don't let them down.
Go to boosterseat.gov to learn more about the importance of boosters. A message from the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
Howdy! Thanks for coming to Big Bubba's. We got a mess of used cars. What can we do for you?
We're looking for,
something cute.
Well, here's a beauty, a 99 model with a moonroof. As a bonus, we'll throw in a leaking gas tank. You could be driving and kaboom! Adds that zing of excitement.
You got any other cars?
Wouldn't it be great if you could be warned of life's risks? If you have diabetes, you can. There's a simple blood test called A1C that can help measure your risk of complications such as heart attack. Why is it important? Because 2 out of 3 people with diabetes die from a heart attack or stroke. If your A1C is above 7, your doctor can show you how to lower it. If you have diabetes, know your risk for heart attack. Know your A1C. Ask your doctor, or for more information, go to www.diabetesa1c.org or call 1-877-TEST-A1C. Brought to you by the American Diabetes Association, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation International, and the Ad Council.
Come with me, let's go.
And we're back. This is Cheryl Echevarria of the Echevarria Travel Show, and we're live until 9 o'clock tonight. And my guest, and also happens to be my guest co-host tonight, Mr. Anil Lewis, from the NFB headquarters down in Baltimore, Maryland. And Anil, before we start talking about where I went this past weekend, did you know that the WTOE network has 4 shows? Actually, 8 altogether, but 4 shows run by NFB members?
No, I didn't know that. I know about Through Our Eyes with Joe Ruffalo, and I know about the Echevarria Travel Show. What's the other 2?
Well, the other one that's following my show next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and all our shows start at 8 o'clock, is On the Bright Side, and that's hosted by Jane Degenshine, and from New Jersey, and she happens to be Joe Ruffalo's sister.
Okay, I remember
and also that. Jerry Marino Sr., who's down in North Carolina, originally from the NFB of New Jersey. And also the middle show of the month is actually the original, Mr. Joe Ruffalo, with Through Our Eyes with Joe Ruffalo. That's the 3rd Wednesday of the month. And the 4th Wednesday of the month is Looking Good Without Looking, and that's hosted by Linda Zany Thomas and Joanna Bacan, and they talk all about fashion for everybody, men, women, children, and she also does a fashion show every year at the convention of the NFB in New Jersey. So all those shows are 8 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday nights. So those are the 4 shows.
She's trying to find my mother's missing meatball recipe, too.
Oh, yes. We've been trying to find Lenny's grandmother's meatball recipe, and, we got to keep finding. Lenny, any updates on that one?
No, I know they're both preparing. I don't know if you heard the last show. Johanna's mother, based on where my mom was from in Italy and stuff, they're trying to, they're trying to figure out what the recipe might have been. Her mother made a couple for me to sample, but then we had a snowstorm and her mother couldn't get out, so she ate them on me.
Oh, goodness. Next time we got to make sure Joanna ships them to you, not
so
eat them.
we have to try again. We're still trying.
Well, let me know if you need any more beta testers for the meatballs.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Well, Neil, like I was saying to everybody before you came on, that this weekend, your other friend, my husband, Nelson Echevarria, who's sitting... And Nelson's sitting right behind me. He's not on camera. He's right behind me. And Neil says, hello, Nelson. And we went into New York City, which is about a 45-minute train ride from us, to the Jacob Javits Center. And every year, they change the date every so often, but it's usually between January and February. It's the New York Times Travel Trade Show. And it's one of the largest trade shows for travel in the United States. And the very first day of this, which was February 28th, is just for travel professionals. So myself and hundreds of other travel agents went to the seminars. We learned updates on seminars on the Caribbean and on Europe and technology. And there was like 8 or 9 different seminars to choose from. Nelson and I did Europe, and we did the Caribbean. And then after that, which opens up the trade show itself, it runs all weekend. Saturday and Sunday is open to the public. And Anil, if you could come up next year to New York, we could take you there. It has,
sounds like it'd be fun. You said they talked about technology there, Cheryl. Is the technology you use as a travel agent, is it accessible? Do you have any problems with it?
It all depends on what it is. Like I do use a phone, Android phone, and it is accessible to me for what I use it for. There are some apps that aren't. There's some websites that are not, but I try to get my foot in the door with them. Yeah. So if I could get my foot in the door, then we have a great connection. If I can't, I still try to find that person that can get me through that door. It's excellent. Not as easy as it seems to be.
Yeah, they're developing those relationships. I think that's very helpful.
I mean, since 2009 when I started, my biggest thing was, especially when I heard with Norwegian Cruise Line, that the NFB had a lawsuit against them, and this is before I was blind and part of the NFB, and back then they didn't have the technology that they have today, which we have Facebook, we have Twitter. I mean, a lot of these things, people say, well, you know, why should that be good for me? And people ask me, why do I only work with certain suppliers? And I said, well, it's not that I only work with certain ones. I promote those that have a working relationship with me. Excellent. I was able to reach out to the executive vice president of sales and marketing just by letting him know on Twitter about the issues that blind people have with Norwegian. And I'm very proud to say that now all their ships have Braille menus on them. They're working on their Braille signage. They're working on other technology to entice people with disabilities, blind or not, to travel on their cruise ships.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
I said that's awesome. Now, you said that in this trade show, you talked about Caribbean. I'm not going to let you get off your own show until you talk to me about my Caribbean vacation.
Well, Anil, where would you like to go in the Caribbean? There are many, many places. I actually learned this year about Martinique. I learned about Curacao. I learned, Nelson's from Puerto Rico. We've been to St. Thomas and St. John and the U.S. Virgin Islands and there's so many destinations to go to, and each one has a personality just like we are. So if you were to call me, which I hope you will do, and I would go by your personality of what you want to do and what kind of history you want to find out, and we'll match you up with the perfect place to go, whether it's an all-inclusive resort or it's a cruise or it's just going to that destination of your dreams that I can take you step by step through and find the perfect thing for you.
I want a place that there's a nice beach. I want a place that there's nice music. I want to be able to go to the beach during the day, and I want to go to a nice little soca place and dance at night. I want a place with good fruity drinks and lots of fun.
Oh, there's so many places out there. I mean, my first pick, of course, is Puerto Rico, because that's where my husband's from. It's a U.S. territory. We also have the NFB of Puerto Rico down there. It's a wonderful place to go and visit. St. Thomas is great. Curacao is like going to Paris because it's... Oh, Letty's playing Caribbean music.
I love
Very
it.
good.
I love it.
Yes, exactly. The reggae, the steel drums. In fact,
now, I did have the pleasure of going to Puerto Rico. I was the national rep for our NFB of Puerto Rico once, and I stole a little time to enjoy myself while I was there. I went a little horseback riding, and I love the zip line. I don't know if I love the zip line. And the one in Puerto Rico was very nice. You had to hike about a mile to get to it, though, but it was very nice. The only thing I regret is I did not get to the luminescent bay. So I'll go back just to do that.
Did you go on the zip line through El Yuque, the rainforest, or where did you go for that?
That sounds right. That sounds correct. Yeah.
El Yuque, yes, that is the only rainforest in the United States. That's in Puerto Rico, and it's one of the largest. And we actually, the first time my husband took us there, we drove to the top. And while we were up there, they say you have to leave at a certain time because it's a rainforest. It rains every single day. And while we were there, it was pouring rain. And it was just amazing. You're driving around and there's waterfalls on both sides. And
oh, wow.
You don't have to see it to feel it. I mean, you feel the humidity and you smell.
And you hear the noise of the waterfalls. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you could get out and get a nice, fresh, cool drink. The luminescent bay, that is when you go out, you could go out on a canoe or a glass-bottom boat, and it's phosphorus, and it lights up at night. So it's a very romantic thing to do. And Anil said he went horseback riding, and they also have one of the world's surfing contests in Puerto Rico. And they have also when Christopher Columbus came to the New World, he actually started from Puerto Rico and came back there a number of times. And they have the fort that actually protected the U.S. from the different enemies that we had at the time. And
they make some really good rum there too.
Oh, yes. Puerto Rican rum is very good. In fact, our next place that we're going to that we've never been to yet is we're going to Jamaica in August. So
what part of Jamaica?
We're going to Ocho Rios, and we're going to Sandals, all-inclusive resort.
Wow.
You want to come along? We're going with other couples.
Yeah, I am game. I'm going to be following up with you. We'll see. Jamaica may be the place.
Okay. And Jamaica is a wonderful island.
Well, the thing I like when I travel is I don't want to go to another place that makes it feel like I never left the city. So I love going to the place and getting a sense of the authentic, culture. I went to the Bahamas once, and we went so low budget. There was something called the Big Brown Bus Tour. It was really just an old school bus that they painted brown. But it was the greatest tour because they took us out in the countryside, and we saw the kids there going to school in their uniforms, and they pulled up into this private beach, and there was this nice little restaurant tucked away. So I love that kind of feel when I travel, getting a sense of being in the place, being immersed as much as you can in the culture and in the environment.
That's what we love to do it as well. That people sometimes like us being blind, they're afraid to get out of that box and look outside of the resort. When you're visiting someplace, first of all, always talk to somebody that knows about the area you're going to. At every place you go, whether it's the Caribbean, New York City, there's always going to be that one area you don't want to go to. So make sure you're speaking to somebody that knows what they're talking about, because on the internet, there's thousands of things out there. But you know what? A lot of it's a lot of misinformation as well. So what I tell people when they're out there looking for travel is to do their homework and then bring it back to me so I can sort it out for them and let them know, hey, I actually just did a vacation with somebody to St. John, and the resort that they were looking at, they wanted to go to, but when I called up, I found out they're under reservations for the next 6 months. So I said they can still go there, but do you want to go there when they're working and hammering and all this and that, or would you like to go to this place, which was just as good? And they said they would never have known that unless I had told them and found out that information for them.
Right, that's really cool, and that's one of the big benefits of using a travel agent. But I think that even more important, it's really cool to use you as a travel agent because you store those stories about vacations that people have and we work out those accessibility problems, and also find ways that you can experience that vacation environment in a non-visual fashion. You know, an ordinary travel agent is not going to be capturing those stories.
Well, you know, when I'm always improving myself of how I want to talk to my clients, or even on the show, and I tell people and guests on my show that, you know, of course, I never want to insult any other person with another disability, because I don't want to come back to me. But, you know, we're in a funny situation. Yes, we can't see where we're going or traveling, but, you know, I tell people, like, we went to Utah this past year with the travel and tourism of the NFB for our very first trip. And for those that are listening, we're going to Nashville, Tennessee, October 6th through the 10th, 2014. And our deposit date is coming up. It's May 15th. So if you're interested in going, give me a call at 631-456-5394, and I'll give you all the information on that. But when we went, we had about 27 people from all different states. And when we were out at certain points, I said, look, I want you all to stand here. We were at one of the canyon parks, and I said, I want you all to stand here, and I want you, there were different plants around, and I said, look, I want you to breathe in the air. I want you to, what do you breathe? And some person actually said fresh air, or they smelled, you know, the sandstone around them, or,
beautiful.
You know, we actually, I call it a little mountain we climbed. It wasn't a big mountain, but we climbed up these rocks and stuff. And you know, some people can't do that. I mean, the only thing that we had is that we couldn't see it, but we could experience it. And the tour operators that were taking us on this tour, they learned something from us to tell their clients, you know, sighted or not, to experience all their senses and just not rely on your vision. I think, you know, people that are sighted forget that they have 7 other senses to work with, and they don't experience the full pleasure that we do.
That's right. And I think that you make a very good point. We help enhance that experience for everybody just by making sure that it meets our needs. I remember I went to Phoenix, Arizona, and I went to the botanical gardens there. And because, you know, I'm walking as a blind person through that, the docent who was showing was actively looking at non-visual things to point out that normally they would not have in an ordinary tour. And we got to, you know, actually taste some things. I don't know whether, you know, they'd done that before, like different types of cactus and that type of stuff. And the more we travel, the more the venues are going to be accommodating to other individuals that are blind when they travel. I remember I went here zip lining again in Tennessee. That was a really fun time. And evidently somebody there blind must have been zip lining, because normally when I go, they're very nervous. They're always afraid. It's the blind guy. What are we going to do? In Tennessee, they just gave me my harness and pulley, hooked me up just like everybody else. And they were saying, all right, now this time, everybody, we're going to go down with no hands. And all right, this time, everybody upside down. And they didn't treat me any differently than anybody else. And I had the best time. But we have to do that. We have to get out there. We have to travel and let these venues know that we are blind people, but we can still enjoy ourselves just as much as anyone else.
Exactly. And of course, you know David Stayer from New York, and he's actually told me he's border skied. So, you know, like Anil was saying, you know, it's nice when people recognize that we, you know, they're comfortable with us, because the more comfortable with us they are, the more comfortable we're going to be with ourselves that we can do it. I tell people it's all about confidence. And when people, somebody always tells me or asks me when they're traveling to someplace new, I say to them, look, when you're traveling at home, yes, it may be a new place, but you're using the same techniques as you would, you know, walking around your own town or going to a convention or something. You're learning the same techniques. Yes, even when I was sighted and I got lost, I stopped and asked for directions. There's no shame in asking for help.
That's right.
I mean, Dr. Jernigan, in one of his speeches, said that being independent is knowing when to ask for help and when not to ask for it. You have to be, if you use, of course, cane first, guide dog, sighted guide. You have to know your mobility to get around. And whether it's here in the United States or out in Europe or Puerto Rico or something, you're using the same techniques. So that's the most important thing that I give my clients that are contacting me that are blind and they're trying to learn something new, but they're afraid because it's cobblestones or there's no sidewalk there or it's a Leaning Tower of Pisa and I got to walk up all these stairs and I say, well, the Leaning Tower of Pisa is not going to put in wheelchair ramps and they're not going to put in elevators because it's thousands of years old. We have to, learn how to get around and move, being confident of where we're going.
You said something very powerful just a little while ago. You said the fear. And I think that really plays a part in a lot of people missing out on a lot of fun things. But I'm going to tell you the easiest way to overcome that fear is to do it. You get out there and you do it and you'll realize how much fun it is and you just won't be able to stop. You'll be looking for that next challenge. And those things that you were afraid of, which you really probably built up to being mountains rather than molehills, just thinking about it, you'll find out that they're really, really simple things to overcome and really minor in the process of fulfilling a full life.
Exactly. And travel is one of those things that you shouldn't miss out on. It's educational, it's historical, it improves your life.
It's fun.
Exactly. It's fun, all right. I mean, I remember one travel, and it was for business. It was down to the for leadership seminar down in Baltimore. It was one of the very first years I was with the NFB. And one of the first trips I traveled by myself. And it was very empowering. And I wouldn't have missed it for the world because Dr. Marriott taught me how to use a chainsaw. And I still have that. I call it Stumpy.
Talk about fear.
And I keep Stumpy right by my potbelly stove, and I tell Nelson, I don't care if we run out of wood. That is not to be burned. That's mine. So, if I sat at home and didn't do anything, I wouldn't have experienced that. And that's even before I, became a travel agent. That's before that was the summer after I went to the Atlanta convention, and actually that was the first place I traveled by plane by myself. Nelson didn't come with me. I went by myself, and I had the most amazing time. So,
well, that's what we teach in the National Federation of the Blind. We teach that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future, and we try to make sure people realize they can have the life they want. Blindness won't hold you back.
Exactly. And speaking of National Convention, if you have not made your reservations yet for National Convention, it's going to be spectacular again this year. You got to make your reservations. If you go to nfb.org or read your Braille Monitor, we're going to be at the Rosen Center again this year, which is a wonderful hotel.
Wonderful hotel.
And you'll find the reservation number there online. Do not wait to get your airline tickets. People love to wait till the last minute to get their airline tickets, thinking that they're going to go down. July 4th week is the most blacked out time next to Christmas to travel. It's also one of the most frequently traveled weeks of the year. People are out of school. People going away for weddings. I mean, even when I booked my airfare back in January to go down to Orlando in July, it was almost sold out. So, do not wait to go. If you're listening, people, please make your reservations. We don't want you to miss out on the National Convention. And we're celebrating 74 years. Oh, my goodness, Anil, 74 years.
Wow. Yeah, wait till 75. This year's convention is going to be phenomenal. The pre-registration form is up, and people should go ahead and get registered so that you can get the discounted rates. But it really is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be educational. It's going to be all the things you said traveling is, but like I said, it's going to be fun.
It is. And in fact, the Travel and Tourism Division meeting is going to be on July 3rd between 1 and 4 p.m. Speaking of Norwegian Cruise Line, I'm having the manager of the Access Department being one of our guests this year. We're having Mark Riccobono coming and speaking. He said he'll try. He's going to be at almost every single meeting, but he said he will come and we'll give him plenty of time to speak. And we have some other surprises coming up. I want to thank Anil Lewis for being my guest and co-host tonight. Anil, thank you so much
again. Thank you very much.
And yes, we can't talk at the same time. Sorry that. But like I said, we're coming to the end of our hour. It went by so fast. Oh, goodness. Anil, anytime you want to be a co-host, you're more than welcome to be one. Remember, people, upcoming months, I am going to have Weberman's Foods on in April. They are the kosher supplier for the cruise lines. And then in May, I have my business development manager from Globus Travel Family Worldwide Destinations going to be on. Stay tuned for more people, more experiences. If you have an experience that you want to share on the Echevarria Travel Show about your travel and you want to be part of the show for the evening with me, give me a call at 631-456-5394. Lenny, thank you very much again for being a great station manager, and we'll see you next month. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Cheryl.
The Echevarria Travel Show is brought to you by Echevarria Travel, home of the independent traveler since 2009, specializing in worldwide destinations for the blind community. For more information on Echevarria Travel, call Cheryl at 631-456-5394 or email her at reservations@echevarriatravel.com. All words, ideas, and contents expressed on this show are those of Cheryl Echevarria and not necessarily those of the National Federation of the Blind, the Northeast New Jersey chapter, or the WTOE Internet Radio Network. Until next time, I'm Keith Zalley.